All right, good afternoon. Let's see here. Shuffle a few of these around. Oh. All right. I think we are ready. So welcome, first of all. Thanks to anyone watching. If you don't know, if you haven't seen before, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. This is a deep dive, which is weekly live stream. It is the first week that I'm picking up for Scott. So Scott Shawcroft is the lead developer of CircuitPython. Scott's the one who started this weekly show. And he just kind of gets on and works for a bit and shows what he's working on kind of for the week. And when he is not around and I am available, then I try to fill in. So I am here this week. He is, of course, out on parental leave, and he'll be working a much reduced schedule for a while. So I will be deep diving with you here on Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern, which is what it is billed at typically when Scott's around. It also happens to be 4 p.m. Central, which is more how I think of it because it is the time zone that I am. Housekeeping note, we are going to cut it a bit shorter. So while I am around, we're going to be doing 1 hour deep dives instead of 2. So when Scott's here, and in the past on Deep Dive, we've done 2 hours, but we're going to cut it back to 1 hour, at least for a bit here. So it will only be just a 1 hour instead of 2. Good news for you, though, if you do like the longer form content like that, I do stream 2 hours usually on Saturday mornings, my time. That's 10 a.m. Central Time on Saturdays. So if you want similar type of stuff with me working on the same kind of stuff that I work on Deep Dive, and you want to watch it for 2 hours instead of 1, then you can still get that on Saturdays or watching the VODs afterwards. Before I get too far into the weeds, though, let me say, if you are new and you don't know much about the deep dive, if you don't know what we're talking about here, everything on this stream is generally related to CircuitPython. You can learn more about it at circuitpython.org if you don't know what it is. It is basically a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers. I am working on one called the Fruit Jam, which is not yet released and is not yet on this list of boards here, but it is essentially a Metro RP2350 that is reconfigured into a different shape and has a couple of slightly different features and things, but not that much. And so essentially anything that I'm doing today, while I am doing it on the Fruit Jam, you could also do it on the Metro if you wanted. And as always, huge thanks to Adafruit. Adafruit is a hardware and software company based out of New York. They are the ones who design and manufacture lots of the different microcontrollers that support CircuitPython. They are also the ones who make CircuitPython possible by paying the team of folks who work on it, including myself and Scott, who is here on the streams more typically. So huge thanks, as always, to Adafruit. And if you want to help support Adafruit and CircuitPython, one of the easiest ways to do it is purchase hardware from them at their website, adafruit.com. The Fruit Jam is an Adafruit design. It will eventually be for sale through the shop there. The Metro RP2350 is also an Adafruit design, so you can pick that one up even already. That one is released. What is up over in the chat to Yano and Beautograph over on YouTube? Nice to see you both, my friends. So I am going to jump right in since we are going an hour. I'm going to try to hit the road, hit the ground running, so to speak. And I think maybe this was showing a minute ago, so you might have seen essentially what we are working on, which is the Fruit Jam launcher. I will give you a quick tour of where it's at, and then we'll jump right into the code. So I think the last time the Fruit Jam launcher was on any of the streams, I think actually Scott worked on it, and he worked on the keyboard support and getting it to launch other apps and getting it to read apps out of the folder on the drive rather than the big dictionary in the Python code, which is how it was originally. And I have done a bit more to it. I now have the arrows working, so I have a keyboard hooked up here. I don't have the top shooter camera, so I can't really show you in super great depth the keyboard, but you can trust me, it's a pretty standard USB keyboard. There's nothing special going on really. It's plugged in to the Fruit Jam, and we can now arrow around. The arrows for the pages are hooked up, so if I enter there, we can go to the second page and see that there's another app here. We also have these ghosty ones, which I'm undecided on if I'm going to deal with these or not, but for right now, they're there. And then we can go back with this arrow, and then we can launch one of them. If I highlight it and enter, it will launch into it. And one of the things that I've done today so far is, if I actually open up this matrix code, I'll show you matrix here. One of the things I've done today is create the Adafruit Fruit Jam library, which will eventually hold a bunch of stuff. It will be kind of like Funhouse and PyPortal and a bunch of those libraries that kind of go with each board. So there will be a Fruit Jam, one of those, and I have started it only just barely. We have one function only so far in peripherals, request display, which allows you to call that function and say what size you want the display, and then it will take care of checking, first of all, whether or not the display is already initialized and at that resolution. If it is, then it will just move on. It won't do anything. If it's not initialized, or if it is at a different resolution, then it will initialize it and put it at the resolution you requested, so that when you go and check supervisor.runtime display, it will be set to the config you asked for. So that is nice, especially for the matrix code, because truthfully, the matrix code does a lot better at this smaller resolution than it does at the big one. So this is now running a bit faster because it's now in a smaller resolution. And then I can click Q right now on the keyboard, and that will exit out of there and go back to this. And then we could like go around and launch all the rest of these as well. Well, some of the rest of these. Some of these are untested and will either crash or not launch or do something broken. But lots of them work, like Matrix works, Snake works, Memory might work, I think, most of the way. Flappy Nyan Cat should be working fine. Match 3 probably won't work. We don't have 2 mice plugged in. Breakout I haven't tested yet. And then on the next page, Chips Challenge, that one will not work because it doesn't have all the right hardware initialized yet. That one is actually made more for the Metro than the Fruit Jam at this point. Lots of the pins and stuff are set for the Metro, but I have it in there so that I could start testing the second page. And then pagination, of course, that's the other thing I added with the arrows and the ability to go back and forth between pages. And where I want to start right now is that I actually also have been working on the editor today. So I will just run this real fast like this. I'll just say, go to the REPL import code editor. And this will launch the editor, and I currently just have it hard-coded to open bootout.txt. So that's basically going to open up bootout.txt as a text file inside of the CircuitPython text editor here, code editor that we're working on. And I can move the cursor around, and I can start typing if I want. But it is read-only right now. Down here, it's got a little RO, which is telling us that it's read-only. So I couldn't save this, but I can type it in if I want. And then we can quit with Control-C. So let's try that. I don't know if that's going to work. Yeah, so that went to the REPL, but that didn't really do that much useful for us. We could Control-D, I think, and then we would go back to the launcher. Okay, so the very first thing that I want to work on is launching the editor to one of these apps. So right now I can launch the app. I can go to whichever app I want, and I can press enter, and like pending whether or not it's broken or we have the right peripherals or whatever, it should launch at the very least. I would like it so that when you press like E maybe, so if I was on Matrix and I pressed E, I want that to open up the editor to the Matrix code. Matrix scroll, I had the screensaver back when screensavers were all the rage, in as much as they ever were. Yeah, nice. Matrix screensaver is a solid way to go for sure. Yeah, I love the Matrix effect in this one with all the Japanese characters as well. This one is actually really cool to just have kind of chilling on a display somewhere. I kind of I did that for a little while I was working on this. Okay, and so we have to do a couple of things because obviously right now this is hard-coded. So what I'm going to do is inside of editor, I'm going to do a thing here where we're going to say we want to check if a file exists, and if it does, we want to open it. So we are going to do that with this kind of thing, but we are going to open code editor. So dot code editor, I did an underscore pi underscore argv. We are going to read that. We're going to, so if it exists, then we're going to say argv data equals json.load the file and import this. Nope. Can go up here and import this the old-fashioned way. Sometimes the IDE tries to be too helpful. So if that file does not exist, it's going to raise an OS error, I think, right? Isn't that what was right over here, which is where I got this? Yeah, OS error. So if that file doesn't exist, then we don't care. We just, realistically, we should open it to a blank file, honestly. But for right now, I'm just going to say file equals none, and we'll set it to, we'll just set it to boot out, just like it was before. Eventually I'll worry about, like, this should open a blank file, which you could then save or whatever, right? So, but right now we'll just go with this. And then here we will say this is file. Okay, so if that file exists, we're going to open it, we're going to JSON load it, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to expect that inside there is going to be a list, just like argv would be in CPython. So we're going to assume there's a list in there. And in this case, we're going to assume the first item in the list is the first argument, which is going to be the code file we want to launch for the editor. So file would be argv data. I'm not going to do file. As nice as that would be to give it a name, I'm actually just going to do 0 so that it's a list so that it works the same way as argv. Okay. But also... let me see. Editor. I think we want to also delete the file because we only want to open it once. So like later on, the launcher is going to write this file. We would want to delete it so that when we go back to the launcher, if we were to just open the editor again, like to an empty file, we don't want to get this again. So we only want to open it once. So yeah, I think if we successfully read from this, and if we successfully got a file, so I guess technically we should maybe try catch JSON or something. I don't know. I think I'm just going to assume it's there. Essentially, though, if we did get all of this stuff successfully, then I'm going to say we want to delete that file also. So os.remove saves. Okay, and this file is inside of saves, which is the which is mounted as CPY saves. So it's writable by default. We don't have to do the whole bootpy thing. Although we're going to get into that maybe in a little bit as well. I'm just going to copy this. Okay. So try to open it, try to read from it. If all of that succeeds, we set our file and we set our file variable and we delete our argv file so that it's cleaned up for next time. And then, so now when we want to open the editor to a specific file, we just need to write this little thing here, put the name of the file we want inside of it, and we should be able to do it. So I'm going to say inside here where we are checking for keys already, this is inside of handle key press in the launcher. I will say elif key equals E. Then we want to launch the editor. which is currently just inside of code underscore editor. We should probably put editor as an app. But right now it's not there, so I'm gonna do it where it is on my device. I both really like that one and wish it more resembled the trailing text fall featured in the films. Yeah, they have more. Well, they have a different set of Japanese characters in the films. It's like kind of a subset of what we ended up with. I didn't want to go through and pick out all the ones that weren't included. But they do also. It does. Look a bit. They're more narrow is one thing. Like ours are, I think, are 16 pixels wide by 16. They're square, which makes it feel a bit different for sure. So yeah, if it's E, we kind of want to do a similar thing as enter, but enter is a bit weird in that it goes index, and then index gets handled down here. We could make an editor index, I guess. Or we could make like an editor true, and then we could reuse the existing index. I think let's just make an editor index. Let's go to wherever index was declared for file index. What about just index? I mean, there must be index because there's this. Oh, it's none, not 0. I see. Okay, but it's okay. So it's at the beginning of here. Is that fine? I guess that's fine. I mean, that's weird to reset it to none every iteration. Anyway, I guess it doesn't matter. That does mean we need another global, which is unfortunate. I'll probably refactor this into a class so that we don't need these globals, but for right now, got what we got. So we basically really only need this part of it. So we have this variable selected. Selected represents whatever object on the screen currently has focus. So if it's a app, an item in the grid, then the selected variable is going to be a tuple, an XY tuple in grid coordinates. So like 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 0, 1, so on and so forth. If it is a button, then the selected variable, it's going to be like the tile grid that button is on, basically. So for the E button, we only care if something in the grid is connected, because we can't edit like a page button. We don't care if you press E when that's selected. So we get the index. Yeah, if they did it on a blank one, then we don't care. We just set it back to none. Otherwise, we are actually going to go and set edited index or editor index here. And then we will basically have another one of these. It should be always L if those shouldn't be, well, yeah, I don't know. Don't spam enter and E. I don't know what will happen. For right now, I guess let's keep these separate though. So if that's not none, then let's print the editor index. We will say editor selected, launch file. We're going to call edit file. And we're going to have to do different stuff for the rest of this. We actually don't need this here because now I have at exit. Yeah, we have at exit, which is doing the deactivate stuff here. We don't need to, be sure we don't need to do that here. From when I had it on my PC, I meant, oh, I gotcha. Sorry, the fruit jam makes it look cooler than I remember. I'm with you. Okay, so the thing that we're going to do different here is the launch file is actually going to be code editor.py. And then we need to write that file. So with open saves, I'm just going to go read it. What did we call it? It was code editor py argv as f f.write json.dumps a list with the file we want to edit, which is apps. No, it is going to be apps editor index file. Unexpected types, possible types. None. Possible type supports index slice. I mean, we know it's not none because we checked right here, so I'm going to be inclined to say I think that's okay. So make a list, put a single string inside of it, which is the name of the file we want to edit, write that into the argv file, and then we go set next code file to the launch file, which is the editor. We give it the working directory, which will be the root in my case, but when we move editor into apps, we'll want that. So we'll just leave it because it should work both ways. Okay, let's see if that works. We'll need to restart this because I have auto reload turned off. So for matrix, if I press E, no, okay, list indices must be integers, not none. 505 in CodePy. Editor index. List. Oh, okay. There we go. Oops. Okay, everything is wrong. Basically, we don't want to do anything index, right? We want to be always editor index. I still don't know why it is thinking that's going to be none, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Or, well, I guess I can reason that it could be none, but also index could be none. Just plain index could be none, so I don't know why it's not complaining about that one. No such file or directory. Okay, so we got closer. Okay, so we, yeah, first of all, this does need this. E. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I pressed E and it didn't crash, but it also didn't do anything. Oh, we need reload still. Wait, did I break this? This means it wouldn't launch either, right? Yeah, it won't launch either. Okay, I must have removed, this? I must have removed this. Okay, here we go. Oh. Okay, I think that might have been still set from last time, actually. I'm just gonna lose real fast. And then press Q. That's gonna take us back here. And I'm gonna press E. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, so now we're in the editor with the matrix file loaded. It is read-only, so we can't we can't like actually edit it. And it is kind of slow to get it to scroll. And oh, the cursor is messed up. So there are some caveats. But it is loaded, so that's a good sign. Huh. I think it's probably not considering the scroll properly. But like everything works until you get scrolled. And then everything's off. Oh, I didn't mean to go up again. Shoot. Well, I guess I did mean to go up again, but I didn't want it to scroll. Although I don't know why I was thinking it wouldn't. So basically, once you scroll, everything is off by the amount you scroll. So I'm not getting the right value for the cursor. Let's fix that. That is going to be inside of lib Adafruit editor. Where we update the visible cursor. So well, I think the position is correct, but we need to account for the scroll. How do we know how far it is scrolled? Does buffer not? So buffer contains the whole file. How do we know which part is visible? Let's look in the down arrow handler. So window.down. It has a horizontal scroll. Interesting. Everything does a horizontal scroll. Nothing does a vertical scroll. Interesting. I guess window.down. Cursor row, bottom row, plus equals. Maybe this is called horizontal scroll in the code, but is actually the concept that I think of as vertical scroll. How's it going, Tithe? Nice to see you, my friend. Set next code file. Let me check the chat here as well. Set next code file would take effect with a soft reboot. Yeah, and I think what happened is it got saved and then it crashed, or it didn't actually run for some reason, and then the next time it rebooted, we got it. I mean, this is Casa num pages, cursor, and columns. Column equals max of pages and calls. If cursor row is equal to self.row minus 1, so self.row contains the scroll position, I think. Print scroll pause self.row. So that should just be like, oh, we don't even have self though. Screen, I think? What was that? Were we on screen or window? We were on window. Shoot. Window. Wait, is screen a window? Window. Okay, we have window. Okay, it doesn't matter what screen is. We have window. Where did I put that self? There it is. Window. Something seems to consider the display to be in portrait despite viewing it in landscape. That's just the, if you mean the fact that this doesn't go very wide, it's just because the code in this file is formatted by Pylint or whatever, which cuts it off at like 100 characters or something. It's horizontal, giving a vertical scroll. I think maybe they just, well, I think either this horizontal scroll is doing like if you were on a line that was longer than the window, which this file doesn't have one, but the editor technically supports. If you were on a line longer than the window and you kept scrolling over, it will keep scrolling, it will keep showing you the stuff that's like to the right of the screen. And then when you press down, you need to snap back to the left, I think is what this might be doing. But I'm not positive. It's either that or it is actually just what I would actually think of as a vertical scroll, like scroll down the page by one. It's one of those two things, I think. But this does kind of appear sort of portraity because there's like this ghost edge that feels like it exists, but it's really just because of the file we're looking at. Okay, where were we at here? Right, so we're gonna print, when I press down, we're gonna print window.row. So let's see if that is on. I mean, my hypothesis is kind of like 0 until you get scrolled. So I'll press E to go to editor. Position 0. Okay, yeah, totally. So that's going to be 0 all the way until we get down to the bottom here. And now it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is basically how many lines have been scrolled past. So we need to add that when we determine the character to use on the cursor. So it would be cursor.row. No, it would be cursor. All right. Okay, so this is YX because it's a two-dimensional array list thingy. Yeah, so this would be cursor row plus window row. Whoops, that's just a property, I think. Looked off by 1, did an increment to 1 until a row later than I expected. It is because of the way that it prints, I think. It prints like it was printing before. See here, because I put scroll position print before. If I were to put that after, then I think it would look more correct. Yeah. I think Control. Oh, okay. So Control D is deleting characters. That's not necessarily what I thought it would do. I'll Control C to quit. I'll Control D to go back to the launcher. I'll E to go to editor. And then, yeah, we could do this. I don't know how to clear this. I don't have an easy way to clear this, I guess. But this time we do see it when it scrolls. And also, let's go down a little bit more and then see if this is working. Okay, so one thing is, though, we're getting off the screen, though. It's letting me scroll off the screen. The character is correct, but the location is messed up somehow. Because it shouldn't go off the screen. That's still good. Do we need to take into... Can I press down? Oh, that's interesting. If I press right arrow from here, it goes down to the next row. I don't think that's right necessarily. Okay, yeah, something's messed up with the right arrow and the left arrow here. If I hold right, it goes all the way to here. But if I hold left, we like skipped the whole chunk there. I wonder, but we're showing the correct things. Does it do that if we're scrolled to the top? No, it's correct if we're scrolled to the top. Okay, so that's tied to the scrolling problem. Could you scroll off initially or only once rows were greater than run? Looks like it's over by rows count. Yeah, I think it's letting me go over by the amount that we're scrolled. I do think that's true as well. Yeah, I guess this should be... Well, here, I guess we actually want to minus the window row. Except here, it's actually XY, so it's the second one instead of the first one. And we will need to multiply it by 12. So I guess what we would do is this. Cursor row... But it's going to be negative sometimes? Is that bad if it's negative? It seems bad if it's negative, but maybe it won't actually go negative because of the way it works? Not sure. Now I've clicked to somewhere completely different, unintentionally. Okay, let's try this. Control C, Control D, E, editor. Okay. Let's go down. Okay, so already one thing that's messed up is the visible cursor is wrong again. It is not letting me scroll past the screen anymore, though, so that's good. So maybe we want to do this here and not here? We don't need this here? Control C, Control D, E. I will say it's pretty freaking sweet that we can do this whole cycle of edit, run, reload, all from the device itself. That's super cool. Okay, scroll down a bit. So it does kind of look messed up while it's refreshing. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt for that because the refresh is slow. I think what's happening is it's setting a visible cursor and it's still trying to re-render the rest of the file and it hasn't caught up to the visible cursor yet. Because the visible cursor is actually quicker to render than the rest of the file while you're scrolling. So it does look like it's off during the scroll. But once the scroll finishes, it goes back to being correct. And these all look correct now. So let's try one of these. If I just hold left, we should... Yeah, there we go. Okay. That looks a lot better. Let's go up here. See if we can scroll back up. Okay. Still good there. Let's hold this. There we go. Okay, so yeah, we want to do that in the first one and not the second one. Makes sense, kind of. Okay, so and then let's just go down all the way. Yeah, see there, like the visible cursor occasionally shows stuff that doesn't look like it's there. Ooh. Oh, I think this is actually, I think I just typed all of those. Well, I mean, I was holding the down arrow. But the down arrow contains square brackets. Oh, there's a page down also. Is there a page down? Yeah, that goes way faster. Okay, there we go. We're at the bottom now. Cursor is still good. We can still do this. Okay, I think we're good on the cursor now. That's cool. Yeah, thank you. Off the screen moves the cursor caret onto your footer. Oh. Yeah, we want to probably stop. Oh no, that's fixed. Well, is that fixed now? What if we're not scrolled down all the way though? But that could be... Does it let you go to the bottom row? Actually a good call out. It might go too far. No, okay, it scrolls. It scrolls. Eventually I'm going to add more stuff to that bar as well. ANSI escape codes. Does it support ANSI escape codes? Yeah. So the arrows, the square brackets up there, were part of the ANSI escape codes essentially for left arrow or for down arrow that I was holding. But I think this keyboard is like there's still work going on with USB host basically. And this keyboard is one of the ones that is most problematic for it. So we're kind of doing a little bit of a torture test by using this keyboard, and also by me like holding the key down while it is trying to refresh here, which is actually taxing it kind of hard. So my guess is we like slipped frames or whatever when we were reading from USB, and it accidentally read the same thing a bunch of times, or it skipped some parts of it and got the wrong parts of it over and over again or something. Okay, next thing I would like to be able to do is launch this file from the editor. So right now, if I wanted to launch Matrix, I would have to go Control-C to quit the editor, Control-D to go back to the launcher, and then enter, in this case, because Matrix happens to be the first one, it's highlighted when it starts, but obviously if it was somewhere else, we'd have to scroll around to it. I would like to be able to go straight from the editor to running the code that you're looking at. And I think Control-R is the key combination I want, because greedily, that's very similar to the run command on my thing here, which I can usually run with, I think, Alt-R technically, but it's right next to Control, and I think of it as Control-R. For me, it's right next to it. We need to know what happens, though. I don't... So does the editor... I think it has an unknown... Yeah. So we need to get this and see what Control-R says. So let's go to the editor. Does Control-R do something in Nano? This editor is kind of like loosely based on Nano, sort of ish, kind of a little tiny bit. So if Control-R does something super bad in Nano, maybe we won't use it. But for right now, I think that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, so Control-R, unhandled key 0x12, or byte. Looks like the byte value of 12. Okay, so let's do another one of these. LFK equals, not that, but is that budgie? No, I don't think so. I don't know what budgie is, so I don't think that whatever I have is budgie. But since I don't know what budgie is, it's possible, if I don't know. Food for thought, should the editor include something like file end tag plus an empty line or two for padding? So, yeah, there is something like if I open a file that's not longer. Here, let me write a little bit more code, so this is back to passing syntax, and then I'll show you. There is an EOF thing but it's only for files that are shorter, that don't have to scroll basically. But we could, to your point, I do think it probably would be good to show at least one line of EOF even on files that do scroll. So if they press Control-R, for right now, let's just say print run. We want to run the file name. Ooh, are we going to know where that's at? Or that's going to be an absolute... I think that's going to be an absolute path, actually. Your desktop environment looks like Linux. Gotcha. It is Ubuntu, my desktop. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Budgie. I'll have to look into that one. There's an EOF character. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's make sure that prints before we get too much farther. It'd be a shame to get way down into the weeds of trying to launch the thing, and it's like not even responding to the key command or whatever. So let's get this, Control-R. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so that is absolute path, which is perfect. So we can actually just lift the code from the launcher here. That should be nice and easy. Ew. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's fine. It's a little weird to do it from inside of here, is it? I guess it's not really. I think it's fine. So launcher file, we don't even really need that because we have a file name, which is fine. So we can just use that. Oh, okay. I've been using pathlib for this actually. I'm gonna keep using pathlib because I feel like the code's a little bit easier to understand. File name dot parent dot absolute. Okay, and then we can import that. So yeah, that's another new thing from this week. There is an Adafruit pathlib. Say from Adafruit pathlib import path. And it contains a subset of CPython pathlib. We need supervisor also. Okay, let's see if that works. And then I will show you one of the other files. I'm going to circle back to that, I promise. Okay, so here's this. Relaunch. Editor. And then Control R. Yes. So we can do Q. Q is actually going to take us back to the desktop, though, the launcher. It's not going to take us back to the editor. I think I'm okay with that. Like, as nice as it would be to be able to bounce directly back and forth between a file and the editor, it would be tricky. Because we would need that other app to, like, help us out a little bit. Or maybe we could do it with the launcher helping us out a little bit. Maybe we could write a file that the launcher reads, and inside that file it can be like, hey, I know you're the launcher, but please, instead of launching the launcher, just go ahead and launch the editor to this file for me. Maybe. We'll come back to that part. Alt-R not used. Nano Control-R is insert another file into this one, but Alt-R is not used. We could do Alt-R, actually. Let's do Alt-R. Then it would be the same as me. It's not as natural on this keyboard that I'm using here, this little USB one, but I probably, if I'm honest, I won't be using it too terribly long. Once the kinks get worked out of it, I'll probably switch back to a keyboard I'm more comfortable on. So let's go editor. See what Alt-R is. I'm guessing it will be a different... Oh, okay. Actually, maybe that's going to be trickier because that's not actually... Oh. It's not actually doing anything. Okay, so that actually... Well, it crashed, but then it relaunched the launcher. All that said is Unicode error. Weird. Oh, and now the keyboard's messed. Oh. That was odd. We might not be able to do Alt-R. Or was I scrolled here? Maybe we weren't looking? I don't know. Alt-R... Alt does something weird. I don't know how Alt works, but it's not working normal. It's not working like Control is, at least. So we will unfortunately clobber the nano thing. Insert another file. Okay, let me do open one. Let me do open one that is not. So we can just say import code editor. Code editor, because by default it will open bootout.txt, which will be short. So yeah, when it doesn't have enough, it shows those. Let's look real briefly if it's like, how does it generate those? So for row in range, last row +1 to window n rows. Set line. I mean, this feels like the wrong solution. But maybe? Control C doesn't work now. I think, did I press Alt already? No. Keyboard does not have any inputs anymore. Oh. Interesting. Okay, I pressed Control C here. But the display did not turn back. You know what? I think the editor has some weird stuff in it. No? Hmm. I don't know. That's weird. For some reason, though, we broke out with Control C, but the serial console did not take back over. I'm not sure why. Okay. Let's try edit matrix again and see if we get EOF. And a reminder, if anyone missed the beginning, we are only going 1 hour, so about 10 minutes left only tonight. And I'll say the same thing that I did before, which is if you like the longer format, if you want 2 hours of CircuitPython development fun, you can come back tomorrow. And I will be here over on my own channel, which is not here, it's over on my own channel, but I'll be over there. And I will be working more probably on this. And I do typically go pretty close to 2 hours usually. Console has spring fever. Oh, we got a couple of those extra square brackets again right there. I should use page down, that's right. Page down made this actually manageable the first time. Okay, there we go. No, we don't have an EOF down there. Okay, well, that was worth a shot, I guess. Let me undo that before we get too far away and just... yeah. Yeah. I guess the EOFs at the bottom of the scrolling file are weird because it's kind of just... you would have to decide how far do you let them scroll. I think it would be nice to let them scroll 1 at least so that it's like super clear that you're at the end of the file. Especially actually because there should be a blank line. So this makes it look like loop is the last line. I don't think that's true. Yeah, there's an empty line after loop. Are we missing the empty line, or is it know that it's empty? If I put not empty... Okay, Control C, Control D, edit. Let me see here. Did we lose the bottom info in the bar for a line or two while scrolling? I think it's just the refresh. It's probably gone for a second while it refreshes, but then it should come back by the time that it actually stops. Presumably overwritten by footer. Would be good to have a blank line for most files, though not always for compatibility. Try a space instead for the last line. Okay, so let's go down. Interesting. Okay, so it's kind of like cutting off the last line, but only if it's blank. If it's a real line with something on it, then we see it. But if it's a empty line, then it kind of gets not really shown technically. Boy, I don't know. How would we get an EOF in there? I'm not actually sure, because this... Really, we need more... So we'll need some logic here, but we are also going to need logic in window.down. This right here, this would need to let it go by 1 extra. I think I'm, again, thinking this is unlikely to be the exact right solution, but might be part of the solution. Wasn't certain if it was rendering or even abroad. That's possible as well. We are, I think, kind of freaking out the capture card, especially because some of these programs are reinitializing the display to a different resolution. So from the capture card's perspective, it's like this device was here on this resolution, and then it like unplugged and replugged, and now it's on a different one, and it has to like re-catch up to it. Yeah, this is still not showing me a thing. Theoretically, row would have gone up, but that was in and of itself not enough to actually make a EOF thing appear. I'm going to put that -1 back. I think it would be twofold, though. I think we would need a change here that lets this go over by 1, and then we also need a change here that somehow has to make an extra row at the end. But you would need to understand this logic more than I do this particular exact moment in time. Maybe hacky to add it to the end of the file buffer. Yeah, we could do that. Like inside a buffer, you could add an extra line. I don't want to go down that road if we can avoid it, just because if we mess it up when we save the file, then we will put extra stuff in the file. We'll grow every time we save, basically. I think it will be possible to do here. I'll just have to, like, it will take me more than a few minutes to grok all these numbers. I'll need to, like, if I went in here and added prints for what each of these was, kind of got a feel for what they were and when, then I could, okay, we could do it pretty well, but... Okay, so we can launch the editor, we can launch the code that we are editing, and we can quit and go back to the desktop. And that is all pretty sweet. This is definitely coming together as its own little kind of self-contained OS. I'm super pleased with how much of the cycle we can do now just on the device by itself without Control-C, Control-D from Serial or anything else. I haven't been showing it, but you can also use the mouse here. So there is a mouse. I could go mouse and click on Snake instead. Of course, Snake is a keyboard-based game, so I do still have to use the keyboard. I have both plugged in, one mouse and one keyboard right now. The Fruit Jam has a hub, so it has 2 ports. So here I can play again. That works. I had to fix some of this stuff today, so the code in the actual guides doesn't work yet, but my local copy here does, and I'll submit a PR. We can lose again. I can queue. That's going to take us back to the launcher. Flappy Nyan Cat, that one works. We can do that. That's another keyboard one. Go here. All right, we'll run into that. We can go Q, go back, and mouse for the memory game. So memory is actually a mouse game, so we need to keep using the mouse for this one. This one, there's no way to quit early. And I'm not going to make you sit through me playing a whole game of memory here. but the memory game is there and it works. I'll do Control C, I think will break, and then Control D. But yeah, that's cool too, is you can always use Control C and Control D, which is kind of nice. Some of the programs like Matrix has a Q for quit, but technically for any program, you can just use Control C and D to quit. Let's see here. Have the editor check for trailing blank lines on the file. There must be something, I think, that's already checking for that last blank line. Even have the OS handle formatting when the file is saved onto the device to ensure it has 2 trailing blank lines. I mean, I think we want to leave it with exactly what it had, essentially. Well, unless they changed it with the editor, of course. But like, if the file has no empty lines at the end, then we should leave it with no empty lines. If it has 1, we should leave it with 1. If it has 2, we should leave it with 2. Whatever it's got, we should leave it. But visually, we can still show this just without actually changing the file. Ideally, we could show like 1, I think, of these if we're scrolled down. All right. We are going only an hour, so we have reached that. I will sign off for now. Again, like I said, if you want a longer thing, if you want to get back to 2 hours, I will be back around tomorrow on my own channel at 10 a.m. Central Time, but obviously there's VODs as well. You can watch it whatever time you want in whatever time zone you're in. I do usually stream 2 hours, so it is a bit more expanded, and I will probably be working on this stuff again tomorrow, because this is pretty much where my brain has been at the last couple of days, so I'll probably pick this back up in the morning when I work on that. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I will be back next week for Deep Dive as well, so 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central on Friday. I'll be back here next week on the Adafruit channel for the next Deep Dive. Until then, I will bid you farewell. I will say thanks for hanging out, and see you next time.